Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Bordertown Strange. We are live from the 37th parallel. Ooh. I'm Pam.
And I'm Jess.
And tonight we're going to bring you along for the ride as we delve once again into the history of pet specters and the effects of the supernatural on animals and all the fun that goes along with that. Now, before we get started, Jess, do you want to take care of a little bit of housekeeping?
Yes, absolutely. So, first of all, before I dive into all the stuff, we have encountered a little bit of difficulty with Facebook. They've changed some of their rules around on us again.
Boo.
And yes, boo. Apparently, right now, you have to have at least 100 followers to be able to post video live from other sites. So, you may or may not be seeing this on Facebook right now. We've sent links out so you can come over to YouTube and watch it from there. Please do. And if you have not gone to Facebook yet and followed the Bordertown Strange page yet, please go do that right now. We're like 8 out from having 100, and then we can just post the videos there like we were doing before. So, like I said, if you haven't done that, please just go over there really quick, hit the follow and get on that page for us and bump our numbers up at least 8, and then we'll be good to go in 2 weeks. Sad to say, you gotta love Facebook. They just keep changing the rules on us. Yeah. Anywho, so if you are on Facebook, do all that for us. If you're on YouTube, the video for us really quick, hit the thumbs up for us real fast, and hit the bell so you can subscribe and you'll see whenever we pop up with a live or we post something we have not yet posted yet. So that'll be fun. Find us wherever you get your podcast too. If you can't watch us live, then listen to us in the car on the way to work. We're just as hilarious then too. At least I think we are.
We think we're funny. Does anybody else? We don't know, but we
who
think
knows?
Yes.
Do we care? Probably not.
Not really.
So we also encourage everybody to hop up on the chats from whatever platform you're watching on. We love to interact with you all, and we do the notebook game at the end where you guys get to participate. So hop on there and chit chat with us, and it'll be a blast. And also, we invite everyone to get up and share your stories with us, or your weird videos. Message them to us, email them to us, however you want to do. We'll read them live on air. We love personal stories. Plus, our team collects those stories. So we would love to hear those. All right. So we're done with housekeeping now, unless you have anything else, Pam.
Nope.
Nope. Okay. So we're going to move on to our new segment. So 2 weeks ago, we started a whole new segment called What the Weird. We started a weekly dictionary game. We're going to pull terms that we use often in our paranormal vernacular that other people may not know the meaning to. And we're just going to start introducing some of those words to you every week so you can kind of get used to. I mean, we forget and say these things as if they're second place to everyone else too. And sometimes people just don't understand what it is the heck we're talking about. So this week, our weird word comes from Pam. You want to take that over?
At least the weird word isn't Pam. I guess it could be.
Yeah, it kind of is.
It kind of is. Excuse me. Okay, let's throw this up here. So our weird word is pareidolia. And if you've never heard of pareidolia, it is the tendency to perceive a specific, often meaningful image in a random or ambiguous visual pattern. So common examples of this would be like animals, faces in clouds, trees that appear to be like, dryads or things like that. Here's some examples of that. We've got a swan and a horse and a crocodile, which I thought was pretty cool. And the tree kind of looks like a dryad, which is a tree spirit. And the picture down in the corner it looks like a unicorn in the fire pit. And I actually took that one a few years ago. Let's see. This one on the next slide is one that we caught a few years ago, actually quite a few years ago on an investigation. I think, Jess, you found this one, didn't you? If I remember right.
Yes, I did.
Yes. So if you guys can look in the corner by the chair, you'll see what looks like a screen mask. And we saw this and we were all like, holy cow, what is this? Because, it appears to be coming out in front of the arm of the chair. And we were just like, we have no idea, because this place does have quite a bit of really strange activity. So our team member, Mike, he actually went back the next, like a day or two later, and got pictures from a different angle. And once you know what it is, you can see it. But not knowing what it is, it does look like a screen mask. It actually ended up being a very large planter in the corner with a floral pattern on it.
Mm-hmm.
So what appears to be the eyes and the nose is actually a flower coming out with leaves on it. And the arm of the chair is rolled, so it makes it look like the face is coming in front of a straight arm, but it's actually a rolled portion of it. But we were all like so excited, and then we were like, oh man, but it is what it is, darn it. But it's always fun, and that's another great reason why when you do investigations, you take more than one picture at a time and try to get it from different angles. We just happened in this particular case, didn't see anything, or was just taking pictures of the room. So it's not one of those where you're feeling activity or seeing activity, so you don't think to take more than one picture. But I'm gonna pop that up while we're going. Thank you, Casey.
Thank you, Casey. Yeah. So pareidolia also, so you can think of the phenomenon with orbs. People take the photos of the supposed orbs, and the next thing they try to do with the said orb is find a freaking face in it.
Yes, and we did show one last week where a woman had, claimed that she saw the dog in the orb. Did she? Did she not? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But, we presented it because she felt that it was something that she saw and it went along with the story.
Yeah.
Cognitive scientists, they have always like to say that this is basically a cognitive short circuit in your brain. That it's a natural, other scientists say it's like a natural human tendency to, let's see if I can kill this word, anthropomorphism, which is to project a humanness onto the inanimate world. So we're looking for a face where a face shouldn't be. Our brain's wired to do that. When we see something interesting, though, when we see something culturally or historically agreed upon as pareidolia, we call it reality. But when we see patterns made by natures or ones where other people can't verify them, then it's deemed an illusion, or a short circuit. But when you think of it that way, what would we be missing if artists and scientists hadn't seen patterns where no one else had before? Like, here's a really good example: the double helix in a DNA strand. That was first seen as a pattern that nobody else was seeing. At the time, nobody else knew about it, so it could have been called pareidolia at the time. And then we also have the vortices that were drawn by Da Vinci and then later painted by Van Gogh, which I think is just amazing. And if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, Jess, but didn't Van Gogh actually see the sky like this, the way he painted it?
Supposedly, that's the story.
That was the story, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which I think is
But he saw everything in motion.
Yes. So pretty cool. And then we have, humans create culture based on agreements and disagreements over patterns. So a good one would be one that's been argued a lot: is there really a face on Mars? There's the camp that's absolutely there is, and then there's a camp that absolutely it's not. With the face on Mars, again, it makes me think of the picture we took of the scream mask, the scream. We're only looking at one picture face on, but when you do see other pictures that are supposedly from a different angle, it doesn't look quite like a face like this one does. Mm-hmm. Let's see here. So basically what it boils down to, if our shared beliefs and practices that are involving these things, if they are real, then yeah, in a sense, these things really are there. So if we could all agree on the face on Mars, then yeah, it's really there. Um, what comes down to the problem is when we have the camp that says yes and the camp that says no, and
Mhm.
then looking for the information to go on both sides of that. So I think, do I have any more slides? Oh, I have these on here too. This was a really interesting one for paranormal wise. Um, you'll see the man and the woman, and it appears to be the head of Jesus looking off to the side until you refocus your eyes a little bit and realize that it's the bonnet um, of a baby sitting in the man's lap is the forehead, and the dark part is where the bonnet's coming over the baby's face. But it, at first glance, it does appear to be a face. You just have to kind of look at it a little bit differently. That's one of my favorites, though. And
Mhm.
this, you can kind of see a face in this. But what this is actually just light coming through a tree that's reflecting on a fence. But looks a little spooky, but definitely isn't. It's just normal.
Mhm.
So that, in a nutshell, is pareidolia.
Yep. If you hear us say pareidolia in the sentence, it's most likely us discounting something that has been seen. Um, it's really
Yeah.
our way of discounting a face that we're pretty sure is not there.
Yeah.
So, yay!
Woohoo!
That's your what the weird word of the day
We'll have
for
to
the
come
week.
up with a cool noise to go with that or something. Dun,
Something.
dun, dun.
Yeah. So coming up, this isn't going to be a normal segment, but we might bring it up once in a while. We're going to do weird in the news kind of a thing. So something had popped up on Facebook and in the news today that we thought we should really bring some attention to. Don't you think, Pam?
Absolutely.
So I'm going to read the story direct from the horse's mouth here. So this was down in Cushing, Oklahoma, which isn't that far away from us. Here he goes. A local woman is the talk of the town after an outrageous claim that she recently made. Sierra Munson, 24, which you see pictured here on the screen, of Cushing, says that she was impregnated by Bigfoot while on a camping trip a few months ago. Sorry, I'm gonna have a hard time getting through this one. It's the it's the only logical explanation, says Munson, a longtime employee at McDonald's in Payne County. My husband is sterile, so we thought we couldn't have kids. Now I'm pregnant, and the only way this could happen is if Sasquatch was the daddy.
I don't know. He
Oh
kind
my
of looks like
goodness.
Sasquatch a little bit anyway. So I
A
think she might
little.
have a hard time telling.
Yeah. Sierra's husband is fully supporting his wife, even though her story sounds a bit far fetched. She was on a camping trip with her girlfriends a while back, said Harold Munson, 53 of Cushing. He's 53. She's 24. It's a
That
little
could be
age
kind
gap
of,
there.
yeah.
Yeah. She said that Bigfoot snuck into her tent and had his way with her. I believe my wife. We've been married for a long time and she's never lied to me. She's only 24. How long could they have
Yeah,
been
that's,
married?
that's a very good point.
Unless they were married in Arkansas. I
Oh,
guess they could have been married for quite a while.
oof.
Experts in the scientific community have been quick to voice their skepticism. Dr. Albert Furman, a renowned geneticist at prestigious Tulsa Community College, sorry, remarked, from a biological standpoint, the likelihood of interspecies breeding is virtually non existent. While Bigfoot sightings remain an intriguing mystery, we must rely on factual evidence, not personal anecdotes. Meanwhile, Harold Munson says that he looks forward to confronting Bigfoot one day soon to give him a piece of his mind. I've got some strong words for that Sasquatch, warns Harold, and he won't like hearing what I have to say, that's for sure. This is a developing story. Oh my
Oh my
goodness.
God. So I'm going to assume, has she had the baby already? I'm going to assume she has.
I know. This
She
was just put
hasn't?
out. No, she's
Oh,
pregnant.
I thought this one had been out for a little bit. It hasn't?
I don't think so.
Goodness. I tried to get the baby Sasquatch a little bit redder so it'd match her hair, but he didn't get quite the right shade.
I don't know what's funnier, like the story or the fact that there's apparently a renowned geneticist that works at the prestigious Tulsa Community College. Oh my goodness.
Oh, and so
Enzo says Tulsa Community College. I'm assuming that's just a nice way to say the 13th grade.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, we couldn't not have a segment of weird news today. So
yeah, that's a wild one. Oh
yeah, if we hear any more about this, if there's any updates, we will certainly bring those to you because this is important news.
Ginger said, poor Bigfoot, next they'll be trying to collect child support. Oh, it could happen.
Oh my goodness.
That's nuts. People are just
all right.
So, okay, we're going to move on into tonight's topic, which is part 2 of the effects of supernaturals on animals and pet specters. And we stopped a little bit. Oh, I have to pull that one up. Enzo said she's going after all that Jack's Links money.
True that.
Oh my goodness. That's funny.
My goodness. Yeah. So we still have a little bit more to go on ghost animals. Mm-hmm. I'm going to finish up some of that because I found some more very interesting stories. So we're going to touch on that for a little bit before we move over to why do animals sense ghosts better than we do, or do they? So
yeah. So we'll start out here with just a little bit, kind of what we started out last time. Like human ghosts, animal ghosts are very real and all around us. This is not based on folklore or myth or anything like that. The reality of these anomalies is based on evidence in the form of spirit photographs, EVPs, and documented sightings. Animal ghosts have been encountered by humans since ancient times. So I know where we left off. We'll start with you, Jess. And I know where we left off, so I'm going to pull up your slideshow.
Here we go. Yep. So the one we did before this, I've already done, but we did, if you remember, if you watched the last show, we did the Glasgow dogs, the 2 little poor dogs that had passed and their owner died later and made them dig those dogs up and bury them in the cemetery with her. And now they chase cars and cause mayhem. So that's kind of where we were at. And I'm just going to continue. I found a few more really great little stories to tell to kind of show to you that this kind of happens everywhere, and heartwarming stories and scary stories and just weird stories, and they're just fun to tell. So what you're looking at right here is the Hinsdale Animal Cemetery in Chicago, Illinois. And this one is free to the public to go see. So if you're ever in that area, go take a look. It's a beautiful little cemetery. So be very careful, though, when you go and visit this place, because it's not the inside of the cemetery that's haunted, apparently. It's the road in front of it. Accidents apparently happen very often on the road right here in front of the cemetery. People report having to brake suddenly for varying animal shadows that shoot out in front of their vehicles at all times of the day and night. Dogs, cats, rabbits, and other shadow creatures have been reported. It happens all the time. Shooting out from the cemetery. Goo.
That's wild. Yeah. Once or twice, maybe, but
no. All the time.
Yeah.
It's reported. Yeah, the police know the road, unfortunately. I think a couple of accidents have been actually people have gone off the road and hit trees because they were dodging what they thought was an animal shooting out in front of them.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, moving on to the next one. All right, so if you're listening and not watching, there is a gorgeous little hamlet we're looking at here. This area is in England. beautiful little picturesque scene. This particular story is called The Phantom Pigs of Chiltern Hills. So, because I was desperately trying to find some like interesting stories, I wanted animals that you don't usually think of, cats and dogs and blah blah blah. So there's a crossroads right here outside of Chiltern, where the gibbet or gallows used to be for this town. So a gibbet is basically a place where you hung people, a gallows or such. They would hang the criminals and then drop them to the ground and let them lay there. And nearby herds of pigs were allowed to run the area and would basically eat the bodies so they didn't have to worry about burying them.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, not good. Even though the gallows are long gone, of course, the phantom pigs are still appearing nightly. Ugh. And you can hear them more than you see them. The townspeople and nearby neighbors talk about hearing them like screaming and feasting, because that's what pigs do. I don't know if you've ever seen pigs being fed, but they'll go to town.
Yeah, they
And
freak out.
yeah, they squeal and they grunt, and they just tear at their food. And this is what people report hearing. And apparently, even scarier than that, they also make themselves known by pig faces popping up into people's windows at night.
Ooh, it's Jody.
Yeah, basically.
Oh, Jody the pig from Amityville Horror.
Mm-hmm.
Yuck.
Ooh, yeah, they've tried to cleanse this area, but nothing works. The like specter pigs come back every night, regardless.
Ew.
Ugh. Yeah,
That's disgusting.
it is.
Or as Chloe would
So
say, it's disgusting.
disgusting.
It's disgusting.
So the next one is in Scotland, and I thought this one was kind of, I don't know, it's an interesting story. So this is a Scottish moor. It didn't have a name, just Scottish moor. And it has a reputation as being haunted by an entire flock of sheep. Believe it or not. They can be here.
That could be
They can be
anywhere in
heard.
Scotland.
Well, it's actually this moor. Like, I made sure. It's just called the moor, wherever this area is. But this is the picture of it during the day. So you can always hear all the sheep bleating, I should say, not bleating, bleating and making sheep noises right before big storms come in. So they actually believe they know where this flock is from. Apparently, there was an extraordinarily bad storm that happened right before Christmas in 1880 that literally killed a whole bunch of sheep and some herders and stuff because it came in so fast. They didn't have time to get the herds back into safety and the shepherds back in. And they believe that it's this herd of sheep that were killed in this 1880 storm, warning people that another bad storm is coming in. So this area apparently knows when a bad storm's coming in because they can hear the ghost sheep, like warning them.
That's interesting. Yeah. That's kind of like the children that push the cars off of the railroad tracks.
Yeah.
Like they have a purpose in the afterlife. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Ready for the next one?
All right. Yes. So the next one is in England, and what you're seeing here on the photo, it's an old, like, drawn photo, because the story's from 1842. So obviously they didn't have a good photo for me to choose from. But this is a drawing of the home that I'm going to be talking about. This home is called the Swallows. Because, in fancy England, they name their houses. I should name my house.
Don't name it the Swallows.
Why not?
Because.
Okay. All right. It's actually in the village of Basingstoke, and I think it's still there in some form. So 1842. Oh, never mind. It's not there anymore. I was on the wrong story. It was torn to the ground and destroyed after years of being haunted by a raving mad baboon and a big cat.
What the heck is up with the gorillas and the baboons and things, the monkeys?
Well, apparently they like to haunt.
Apparently.
So it was reported that daily those two would be seen rising like ghosts up from a grate in the floor that led to the old dairy that had been on the property once before. They would rush past and into the wall and then rush up and down the stairs and wreak havoc throughout the house. No one knew when they might pop up in a room or pass through a wall. After the home was torn down, the site was used to build small cottages on, but these were soon torn down due to the haunting having transferred into them. So you imagine just being in your brand new little cottage and have a baboon and a panther run through it?
No, that would be crazy.
The theory behind the haunting points to a murderous highwayman named Steeplechase Jack, son of a Scottish chieftain who murdered many people and buried them somewhere on the premises. He himself had a bad ending, having fell into a vat of boiling tar.
Holy cow.
Yeah, my question is did he fall in or was he pushed?
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah.
What a way to
However,
go.
however, no one knows how the cat and baboon fit in, except that maybe they are the earthbound representations of Jack and his horse, who are still as raving mad as they were in life. So I don't know.
That's a stretch.
I think it is too. But I thought that was an interesting one, that just a crazed ghost baboon and a big cat would just run through this place willy-nilly.
It is. I wonder.
I don't know.
I guess that's the best they could come up with for a story, huh?
Perhaps. All right, next. We're going to move to a rabbit. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, for you who can see the photo of the floating chaise lounge over the rabbit. This is a for real photo that I found.
There's
No, I'm
just
joking.
bad Photoshop skills. Never did that.
Yeah. No, I totally did it because I didn't have a picture for this story, but I thought it deserved one. I did it.
Oh, you have mad Photoshop skills.
Terrible Photoshop skills. It's pretty funny though.
So sorry.
If you can't see it right now, make sure you get up and check out our YouTube page later and give it a look because, yeah. Enzo says he's getting Monty Python vibes already. Yeah. Run away!
Just but a flesh wound.
Just but a flesh wound. All right. So this is in Epworth, England. And this is an older story and it's a personal story. So of course there wasn't an actual photo for it. So a very large white rabbit ghost would pop up through walls, run under furniture, and cause havoc before disappearing in this home. It was a daily occurrence, and on one occasion the haunting became frightening when the owner heard a strange sound, and when they turned, their sofa that had been sitting against the wall across from them was suddenly floating mid-room with the white rabbit rushing in circles underneath of it. When
I
spotted
stand corrected. You do have mad Photoshop skills.
There you go. When spotted, the rabbit shot out from under the sofa and through a wall, the sofa dropping and coming down hard. It was later found that a boy had once lived in the house previously who had a habit of killing small animals for fun and supposedly had stolen the next door neighbor's prized pet rabbit and killed it.
Oh.
Yeah.
What a little jerk.
Yeah. So apparently the bunny came back to haunt him.
Ugh.
But the kid wasn't there anymore. You want to say a psychopath? Isn't that one of the first signs?
Yes, it is.
Of a serial killer getting ready to happen?
Yeah, if they torture and kill animals. Ugh.
Yeah. Yep. Now, the next story I'm going to tell you I thought was super interesting. It's a long-held legend with this church. You're going to see a church pop up on the screen here. So this story is called The Church Crow. It started in the late 1700s, and this is in London, in case anybody's interested. Um, so the sexton of this church, his wife and family reported hearing sounds of squawking and pecking and wings fluttering and coming from one of the burial vaults inside the church. It's one of those churches that has this section in the back full of the above ground burials that are in the actual inside of the church. They're kind of like mausoleums, but on the inside. Yeah. So after many attempts to find the cause, because you could actually walk in, they never saw anything when they walked in. One day they did see something. An overly large crow was spotted finally inside the vault, causing a ruckus, but could not be caught. And in the end would just simply disappear. So this went on for a while. After a number of days, it started flying through the walls like a ghost bird would, and into the sanctuary of the church. And then eventually its path included the outdoor cemetery and churchyard. So it would kind of make this path every day. It would start in this tomb and then move its way outside. It was later confirmed that the plot in the churchyard it was visiting belonged to the disgraced cast off son of the family whose tomb it originated from, having not been allowed to be buried inside the church. The crow haunting persisted for many years before slowly dying out. So, and it's a true story.
Huh.
I went and verified it. Yeah, this happened for quite a long time. It didn't say exactly what the son had done to have been disgraced, but he wasn't even allowed to be buried like within the actual churchyard. He was just outside.
Yeah.
So whatever he did,
Suicide or something.
mm-hmm,
Man.
something. I don't know. All right. So moving on, the next picture should be of Griffith Park Zoo, but we actually discussed this with Mark on the last one. This was the one that we were just discussing that had the curse put on the land. And like everybody who ever owned it came to an untimely end, or they were prone to fires and trees falling on them, and all sorts of good stuff. I'm not going to go into it again because it's quite a long story. If you're really interested in it and you didn't see part one, when we're done here, go back and take a gander, because the first one I thought was fantastic with all
It's
the
a
fun
fascinating
stories.
story.
Yeah, it really is all about the curse. Okay, so the next one should be the Demon Cat of Capitol Hill. So, yes, Pam?
I was going to say, can kitties really be demons? And I thought better of it.
Well, I think demon in this case was just a different way of saying ghost by somebody who was a little bit fanatic about it.
Maybe not a cat lover.
Perhaps not. So, I'm just going to read from like some of the news reports here, because this is a very famous ghost cat that roams the Capitol building in DC here in the US. So the demon cat apparition is one of the best known ghost stories in Washington, DC. It refers to an oversized, menacing cat that appears sporadically in prominent federal government buildings. According to legend, the demon cat conspires to frighten unsuspecting people. Other times, the demon cat's appearance has been considered a prophecy of impending disaster or tragedy. The demon cat is also sometimes known as simply DC. Now, on the screen, we have a picture of the cat that supposedly was the original cat before it passed. And beside that is two prints in the newly poured concrete at the Capitol building. It is a little odd when you think about it. There's no footprints leading up to it, and there's no footprints leaving it. It's simply,
that is,
yeah, two cat prints right there. and they believe that these belong to DC. That he was making himself known when the new concrete was poured, kind of leaving his little moniker.
Aww.
Yeah. According to an 1898 article in the Washington Post, the demon cat appears as a regular sized house cat initially, but then quickly expands to the size of an elephant before the eyes of a terrified observer. I don't know how.
Cats do love wet cement.
Yes, they do. The first recorded appearance of the demon cat was in the U.S. Capitol in 1862. During the Civil War, the U.S. Capitol's basement was used as a bakery to feed soldiers, and the demon cat appeared there several times. A guard reportedly fired a gun at the cat, and it disappeared. Since its initial manifestation, the demon cat most frequently shows up in the basement of the Capitol building. The cat is sometimes described as a tabby, although others who have claimed to have seen it believe it is black. So I think it just depends on
Yeah.
whichever cat has come your way that day, what color it is. There's other stories about it, prophesizing bad things getting ready to happen, wars getting ready to start, things like that. We won't go into all of that today because it's quite a long, convoluted story. Maybe something that we do an entire show on later. That one might be a fun one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool.
All right. And the last one that I'm going to do, we're going to end with dogs. This one kind of made me sad. I decided to kind of show it because it says this is a long lost, forgotten cemetery, basically. So this is the pet cemetery at the Presidio. That's in San Francisco, California. If you haven't heard of what the Presidio is, it was a base, an army base. So this area here, there's different parts of the cemetery, and the cemetery part I'm showing you here is called the Dogs of War. So yeah, this cemetery actually sits hidden now under a bridge, and you'll see the bridge in the picture, the overpass and everything. It's just been kind of covered up and forgotten about. On the decommissioned military base, and it contains the pets of all the base residents that used to live there. And it also contains a large amount of the trained war dogs who saw action overseas. That's what this section is. Most of the dogs saw a lot of violence, and their souls kind of show that, they say. The war dogs are seen and heard in large numbers as they restlessly roam around the cemetery area. And unfortunately, as you can see here, it's really not taken care of. I wonder if they're sad because they're not being watched anymore. But
so,
yeah. The cemetery also contains other pets and animals and stuff that were owned by base families. But I just thought it was really sad.
That is.
Yeah. Take care of your cemeteries, people. I don't care if it's for animals.
Yeah, because that's awful. That's just,
it is
neglect, and it looks like probably some what's the word? First word of the night that I've lost. Not to be the last, I'm sure.
Well, yeah. Anyways, this is going to conclude our ghost animal stuff. I will say before we move on, we really could have gone much further with this and gone into animal legends and
yes. That is the word.
Other
Thank you.
Vandalism. Yeah, we could have gone into legends and like England's famous black hounds that are bad omens that weren't truly even animals to begin with. They're more like an elemental, I would say, if you were going to choose a word for it. We could have kept going with that kind of stuff, but we decided to kind of condense it down into just ghosts that were once animals. So that'll be a different topic. That'll have to be like a curses and omens type of a show.
That'd be a good one, omens.
Yeah, it would be.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we move on, I do want to, this is what I ran to get earlier. This is a book that I pulled a lot of stories out of, Animal Ghost Stories by Nancy Roberts. And I liked it so much. I had I was using a library copy. I liked it so much, I went online and found a copy of it, and it's out of print, and the author has actually passed. I want to say it's from 1985 or 95, somewhere in there. But when I got this in, I was super thrilled because not only is it in better shape than the book that I was working out of, it's signed by the author.
Hey.
How cool is that?
Yay.
Just wanted to share that. Thought it was really neat. Give a little shameless plug for thrift books. That's where that one came from. And they're kind of, if you've ever ordered from them, they're kind of a crapshoot sometimes, whether you're going to get a great book or not. And that one happened to be a great one. So yay.
Yay.
All right. So moving on, we're going to talk a little bit about the effects of supernatural on animals. And when I was looking for stories on this, I actually found an interesting survey. And this was done on 2,000 pet owners in the UK, and it was conducted by the animal charity, the Blue Cross. And according to this, more than 30% of people in the UK believe that their pets protect them from ghosts and spirits, which I thought was pretty cool. Some of the or many of the pet owners reported that their dogs or cats alert them to a supernatural presence by barking, growling, or staring at nothing, or by backing away from something that can't be seen. And I know a lot of times that some of the things that I was reading said that it could be like rodents in your walls or things, bugs or something that you can't hear that the animal can. But in this case, if they're backing away from things that can't be seen, I'm not buying the rodents in the wall.
I will say though, before you move on, our team has encountered where someone's dog has been barking or pacing at a wall a lot, and you've used thermometers and heat detectors on that wall and found that they had termites infested in their exterior walls. The dogs can smell it. And they don't like it. So they'll sit there and bark at it. So if you have a wall where your pet is staring or hissing or barking at often, before you jump to conclusions about it being haunted, maybe have the bug guy come in and just check that for you. Because a lot of the times, especially if it's an exterior wall, you more than likely have termites or some other kind of an infestation going on.
Yes.
Just double check.
Absolutely. I know some respondents said that their pets they'll also flare their neck fur when a spirit is nearby, so they're not just freaking out for no reason. And among the dog owners, about 25% of them said that their dogs are barking or staring at nothing at least 3 times during the past month. So again, if you have, like Jess was saying, if they're focusing on one place in your house and not different places in the home, it's worth it. It's worth a check to make sure that you don't have something in your walls that you don't want in there. You could also have a snake in there. Who knows? But if it's got a nest built in a specific spot, it's worth getting looked at. Around 25% of cat owners said that they saw their felines hissing or growling at empty spaces at least twice over the last 4 weeks. And others said that they have seen their cats follow an invisible presence around the room with their eyes. And we have a library cat named Luna, and she does that. She will get up on the very top shelves in the stacks and watch, something. And there's, there's no bugs flying around or anything. And there's vaulted ceilings in the library with no attic. So, we don't know what she's seeing, and we did show this last week, but I blew it up a little bit so you guys could see it again. This is, I actually caught this on a live photo. So I went ahead and recorded it so you could see it, her actually moving in it. And the whole reason I was taking this picture was because we had just set up this tent, and we wanted a cute picture of Luna setting in it, to post on Facebook, on social media. And I just happened to take this picture of her, And you can hear her meow too when she sees whatever she sees.
Oh.
She's just like, something flew
She,
in there and she booked it out of it.
yeah, she bolted.
She did. And I love how her front paws go out when she runs. She's like,
Oh.
but and I'll have to ask Ginger and Jennifer. I'm not. We thought she would spend a lot of time in that tent, and I honestly haven't really seen her back in it since this. I know Ginger's in the chat, so you'll have to
Mhm.
correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I will say this. So, for any of you listening that doesn't know the story behind the library that Pam works at, it's had a lot of things happen at it. When we first opened it, because the library isn't very old.
No,
It was built
2016.
brand new, but it was built on top of an old property that had a lot of activity on it. And it kind of transferred, I think, over into the library a little bit. I was helping put some murals in right after they opened, and I was watching lights turn on and off in a closet that was closed up. Um, and I've seen some other odd things happen there, and they've had a lot of odd things happen there, especially with Luna. Books falling over and alarms going off when no one's there, and just some craziness. So that place is a little active. I think even they gave Luna a little crystal on her collar just to kind
Yeah.
of keep her safe while she's there by herself.
Yeah, she lives there all the time, so we try to
Yeah.
keep her safe when we're not there.
Hmm.
The water fountain used to go off and on by itself too, which was really odd.
Hmm.
Let's see. Figure out where I need to go next. Oh, and this is interesting. Not only are animals, able to see supernatural things or to be able to tell if there's something amiss in your walls. Um, the medical news today, they reported on a study talking about highly trained dogs that are able to detect prostate cancer in urine samples with 98% accuracy. And that's been just attributed to their acute sense of smell, which is fascinating. There's Ginger. She said when we first set up the tent, Luna would sit in the middle of the tent. Since this video, we haven't noticed her in there. A tent to a cat is a attractive nuisance, and she does not go in there. I didn't think I'd seen her in it. Pretty wild. But so yeah, when they did this survey, dogs and cats were the pets among which most psychic and ghostly experiences were being reported, followed by rabbits, guinea pigs, and horses, which I thought was pretty cool. And one thing that we've talked about a lot in the past is how dogs see things differently than humans because of the numbers of rods and cones in their eyes versus what a human has in theirs. And I found a little bit about that. Humans have more cones, which allows us to see more colors and brighter colors than what dogs do. Dogs have more rods, which kind of gives them an edge when it comes to seeing in like low light or to identify moving objects. And dogs also, their eyes are more set off to the side of their head a little bit, so they have a broader peripheral vision than what we have. See,
Ginger said horses see boogers everywhere. LOL.
they are a little jumpy, aren't they? That's funny. Dogs also have more rod cells in the retina than what humans have. And rods are what are responsible for detecting the motion, even small movements at great distances. So when you compare that to humans, dogs see better in the dim light, like dusk and dawn, and they can more accurately detect motion. So it's absolutely accurate that dogs could be picking up on something that we aren't able to see at all. And so, can dogs see ghosts? Well, if ghosts are real, they would be the first to know about it. But what's interesting about it, their senses are often well beyond what our human range is. But it's estimated that it's not, yeah, it is estimated, I guess, that a dog's sense of smell is up to 100,000 times stronger than a human's. So instead of asking, can dogs see spirits, we probably need to be saying, can dogs smell spirits? Because they're
Hmm.
probably going to smell them before they see them anyway. Um, it's so spot on that a dog's sense of smell can even be admitted as evidence in a court of law. So, if there is a ghost specific fragrance out there, our dogs are going to smell it for sure.
I was gonna say, what do you think ghosts smell like?
I don't know.
Do
Mothballs?
they have a particular scent, or do they smell like they did in like
Blueberry?
life? Yeah, I don't know.
Like blueberry cereal?
Blueberry cereal.
I don't know. So, like dogs or like people, dogs have five senses. They've got the sight, the smell, the taste, the touch, and the hearing. And they also possess that sixth sense that humans have, that gut feeling. Um, the difference is that dogs are more open to trusting what they feel and acting on those feelings rather than, people. Our stupid minds get in the way and we try to analyze what's going on and deny the possibility, and that these things exist. But, Dr. Mary Birch, she's a director of the AKC Family Dog Program, and she's a certified animal behaviorist. And she said, when asked about this, she's like, obviously a dog's senses far exceed a human's. And they are absolutely going to be able to smell and detect things before we can and be more likely to respond to it than we do. Um, there's a lady named Karen Anderson, and she's a professional animal communicator, and she's a psychic medium based in Elk, Washington. And she is a believer, obviously. And so she says pets absolutely, most definitely interact with the spirit world. And that, again, dogs can absolutely see spirit. It can be a human, sometimes it can be another animal spirit, sometimes it could be non-human, like an angelic energy. But just like humans, some pets are very tuned in and more sensitive, and others don't have a clue. So it's kind of like, Jess and I are a little more sensitive. Mark's a rock, kind of same thing. Every animal is different, just like every human's different. So
Hmm.
makes sense. Um, they can see the spirits with their eyes because they have the ability to see things that we cannot, and they can hear things that we can't. So they can pick up energy in that way too. So, even if we can't hear it, they may just even feel the vibrations off of it because they are so sensitive to those things. So, which kind of makes sense. Um, so when asked, how can we tell if our dogs have this sixth sense? She said to look for three clues. The first clue is staring down a hallway or a wall or in a corner. Um, the number one clue that there's something present is that your pet's going to be staring up in the corner of a room where there's nothing at all. She says that upper corners of rooms are energy vortexes, which I thought that was interesting. Kind of makes sense because I know like negative energy can collect kind of like dust bunnies.
Hmm.
Um, so I guess it could collect in the top portions of rooms too. Have you ever heard of that?
Not, I have not, but it makes sense, you
It
know.
does, doesn't it?
Yeah. It makes sense. Well, I mean, I know that cats their vision is so much better than ours in different ways. Our vision is better theirs in some ways, like we can see more color than they
Yes.
can. But I know that they can see on different spectrums that we
Yes.
cannot. So I often wonder if, when you see them like staring at that weird thing near the ceiling or off in the distance or whatever, if they're not seeing a ghost, but they're seeing some type of an energy or something that we can't actually perceive,
Hmm.
because they can see those different spectrums. So,
That makes sense.
yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it is like a swirling of something,
Yeah,
but it's
vortex.
not something that's perceivable to us because we can't see that spectrum. So,
Huh.
who
So
knows?
maybe Van Gogh had a little bit of canine in him,
Ooh,
he could see
perhaps.
where he could see the vortices going around there. Another thing to look for is them barking, whining, showing other anxious behavior because they're a lot more demonstrative than we are. they're trying to say, hey, there's something here. And they might even start scratching, and become defensive and start backing away down the hall or whatever. There's Bronwyn.
Yeah,
She
she came
always
to
looks
visit.
so impressed with everybody.
She is.
She looks so
She's-
put out.
She is. She's like, I just wanted you to pet me, not pick me up. Now I'm covered in cat fur. Okay.
Oh no.
That's okay.
That's funny. And the other thing is being fearful or drawn to certain rooms or areas of your home. They can also act really weird, like they're not going to go into a certain bedroom, or they won't go into a basement. We had cats that at the house I used to have, we had a big basement, and they wouldn't go down there at all.
Yeah.
Enzo said that cat is always looking at you in judgment. She is.
She is. Mm-hmm.
She's very judgy.
Yes.
Too funny. She also pointed out that it takes a lot of energy for spirits to even show up. So when they do, they're not really there. They're not going to come in just to scare you or scare your pet. It's usually either like a loved one coming by to say hi, or, maybe a pet that you had that has passed on. That's just checking in on you. It's rarely is it going to be, somebody coming in just to say, oh, there's a cat, I'm going to scare the crap out of them.
I don't know. I might do that if I was a ghost.
I know, right? I mean, the afterlife's going to be a really long time. So if you get bored enough, you can see it happen. Too funny. So she did say, if you do see your animal sensing something, always try not to get scared. Remember that you're the one that's in control. Tell the spirit, knock it off and stop scaring your dog or your cat, and speak calmly to your animal, and don't get onto them for alerting you that something's there, because they're just trying to protect you and let you know that, something's in the room, something's happening. And they're just wanting to make sure that you know it. And perform a cleansing, burn some sage, say some prayers, whatever you believe. It's the best way to try to get it cleaned out. And in addition, make sure that if your animal does these behaviors over and over, like if they're like leaned with their head on the wall for a long period of time, that's not normal behavior for an animal. But it is a sign of maybe a brain tumor or something medical going on with your animal. And they can also, dogs and cats can have like partial motor seizures that cause, you ever seen a dog or a cat snap at a fly? They'll turn their head and just snap at it. If they do that over and over and there's no flies in the area, that can be a partial motor seizure. So that's something just to keep an eye on your animal and make sure that they're okay. And let's see.
Pam's lost her spot again.
I did. I'm going to skip over that part there. What I think is really cool is I ran across this, and I know Jess has some info on this too. The belief that dogs can sense ghosts, not being anything new. The Aztecs of Mexico believed that dogs could not only see ghosts, but they could protect their people from them. And they would even bury their dogs with their dead so that the dog could guide the recently deceased into the afterlife. And the Mayans shared a similar beliefs, and the Inuit people of the Arctic believed that dogs had a connection with the paranormal as well. You had some of stuff on that too, didn't you, Jess?
I did, like going back, the same for the ancient Egyptians. Everybody knows they revered cats, of course, believed them to be protectors against evil. They were apparently linked to seeing spirit, like they could see into that other side, whereas we couldn't. So they were actually kept as more or less pets, but they were guardians for houses. If you had a house, you had a house cat. And they were also very prominent in temples. Temples had their own cats that moved around there. So, and also in Asian cultures, cats were revered in the same way. They were kept in temples and the spiritual gardens. Every one of them had a cat to guard it. It was their guardian.
That's awesome.
There's also, and I'm going to try to say this correctly, I went and looked up how it was pronounced, so I tried to spell it out phonetically so I wouldn't mess it up. It's called Maniki Nico. or a beckoning cat. And they're worn as talismans there for good luck and to ward off evil spirits. And it's basically just a cat, a little cat statue you would wear around your
It's
neck.
not a cat around your neck. It's just a statue.
Yeah. In Chinese culture, cats are associated with mysticism and the ability to see spirits. So that there too. And then you move over into Europe, and now we're getting into dogs. And you mentioned this earlier about them seeing them as protectors against evil and the spirit realm. And they're also considered good luck charms against ghosts. So when we see these old shows and stuff, or we read old books from that time and England and stuff, like all the rich people would have these fantastic dogs with them all the time. You would have your hunting dogs, but you would have your house dogs, and the reason why those house dogs were there was not solely as a pet, is because they were seen as good luck to protect the house against evil and ill luck and adversaries that might come at you. So every grand home had at least a couple of dogs that protected the home itself. Kind of interesting. Yeah. So in Native American culture, of course, they revered all sorts of animals as protectors. And all the animals had different jobs, like ravens and crows, carried messages in between here and the afterworld. Cats and dogs too. Cats and dogs were good luck, or bad luck, depending on which tribe you were from, and on and on and on. So this goes back very, very far. It's not just something recent that has popped up.
And it's interesting too. When you think about how long animals have been domesticated, you're going to run into stories just about as far back as the stories of them being domesticated go as well, of them being protectors. But again, when people lived a little bit closer to the earth and weren't as distracted as what we are nowadays, I think they were more in tune to those specific things. And I think it made a big difference in how they experienced life and the world around them, for sure. So, what I had next was moving into just some stories. And it's really hard to find. We're usually heavy on visuals, and we're really not tonight. There's not a whole lot of other than cute dog and cat pictures.
I will say this. So, like, just to let everybody know at home, there's not as many stories we're going to tell tonight about animals sensing ghosts, because really there's not a whole lot to those stories. So more or less it's going to be, my cat acted really weird last night and it was staring at a piece of the wall, and then a vase fell off the shelf.
Yep.
So it's not much of a story. There was a lot of videos we could have pulled, but then you're playing with fire there with copyrights and stuff like that. Yeah. But we did manage to track down a few really very interesting stories to tell you. But like I said, it's really hard to find a story that's beyond Fido acted really nervous, and then grandma kicked it. So
that was a very common one, actually.
Yes. So who wants to start?
Let me start with a couple, and then I'll send them over to you for some more. Okay, so this one is a lady that said, when we first moved into our home that was built in 1940, I could not get two of my Briards, which is a large herding breed, to leave the bedroom, and they were normally Velcroed to me. We eventually learned that we had a grieving mother whose infant son had died in the old kitchen, which was now our mudroom, who a year later died herself. So our Briards didn't want to leave her alone. The ghost name, they found out her name was Minnie. But she had at that point embraced their crazy family and helps them find lost things. So I think she must appreciate the dogs for company now too. It's kind of a cool story.
Yeah.
I like that one. And then there's a lady named Joanna King. She has a German pinscher named Parker. And she said, after my father died of pancreatic cancer, At times, Parker would lie on the floor in the same position as an Egyptian sphinx, and I would smell Dad's aftershave. And I knew then that the conversation between Parker and my dad was starting. Parker would lift his head up and his eyes would never look anywhere else, just at the room's doorway. And the scent of aftershave got stronger. Then Parker would tilt his head and respond to Dad vocally. When Parker stood up, I knew Dad had left, and those visits always brought me peace. I liked
Aw,
that one. That is awesome.
that is good.
Yes.
So I tried to because the stories I were finding were so repetitive and not a whole lot to them. I went on a hunt. Like I've been hunting for 2 weeks now to find a good handful of really interesting stories. And the first one I'm going to tell, I'm calling the green lizard. So it was the only time I saw it where like a pet lizard was kind of the harbinger of all of this. And it is scary but kind of fruity all at the same time. So I'm just going to tell it and let the cards fall where they may. You all tell me what you think. So this is a story. It happened Christmas 2021. Some friends got together at another one of their friends' apartments to stay a few nights and to celebrate the holidays. The owner of the apartment had them all bed down on the couches and the floor in the living room and warned them that if they woke up after 2 a.m., not to look at his aquarium where his green lizard was housed. I guess it's called an aquarium, one of those, big
Terrarium?
glass.
I don't know.
A terrarium. His pet, he said, usually would be staring into the kitchen, but not to follow his gaze. Really cryptic, right? But if it were one of my friends, I would have been like, what kind of bull crap are
Yeah,
they
I
trying to
mean,
pull on me?
yeah.
Like, what are they, they're trying to pull some kind of a joke here or whatever. Right? So apparently a couple of nights passed. Nothing weird happened, and they all kind of just forgot about the weird cryptic warning. However, the next night, the friends were suddenly awakened when one friend screamed and stepped on the others, trying to get out the front door. In the mayhem, one friend pointed at the lizard. It was staring towards the kitchen. They all, at the same time, followed its gaze that was at the window above the kitchen sink. They saw a woman in the window, hanging upside down. She had very pale skin and overly huge swollen eyes that were bulging out of their sockets.
Ew.
Ew. So apparently this is seen every night, and the lizard is the one that sees it first.
That is weird.
If that would happen at my apartment, I don't think I would have invited all my friends over for Christmas. I would have been like, hey, can we have it at all of one of yours houses?
I'd be
Because
moving if that was happening at my apartment.
I would at least be covering up the kitchen window, don't you?
Right? Something.
Wouldn't you do
Yeah,
that?
absolutely.
Yeah. Bleh. So green lizard, apparently lizards can detect these things too.
Interesting.
Creepy ladies hanging upside down outside of windows. It didn't say on there like how high up the window was though. Like I didn't know if it was a first floor window or
31st floor window. We'll never know.
Yeah. Yuck. Anywho, moving on. So, I don't know if you all are lovers of all things paranormal. You may have caught a number of years ago Animal Planet, and then I think it moved to Discovery. Maybe it used to have uh, a haunted show about pets. It was called The Haunted, I believe. It was originally on Animal Planet, and then it moved over to Discovery, I believe. So the very first show that they ever did, I was so interested. I actually went and looked it up at the time that it happened. This was like back in 2016, 17, sometime back there. The very first story they did was on a story about this huge barn full of horses, and all the horses kept getting moved in it. And I remembered that when we decided to do that show, and it took all of me, but I finally found all the original stuff for it, and I found some of the original reports that were done on it before Animal Planet ever did a story on it. So I was going to tell it here because I think it's so interesting.
Cool.
And you can actually find the story now. If you go to YouTube, you can't find it through Discovery, but someone else has like recorded it and then thrown it up there. It's
Awesome.
called Terror at Mapledale Farm. It's episode 1, season 1 of The Haunted. So if you want to go check it out, it's pretty interesting.
I don't remember that show. I'm glad you got that.
It was only on for like a season and a half. Really excellent stuff. It was a lot of demon stuff that I didn't really particularly care for, but they had a few really good ones on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this actually happened in Connecticut, and these people still live there. Apparently the activity isn't nearly as bad. So it's a huge farm. It has a huge barn on it and a lot of outhouses. It's a lot of outdoor space. It's a rural area. And this lady and her family had moved in there. It was like her dream place. She was an animal rescuer. She would rescue any animal. She took in dogs and cats and goats and sheep and horses. But she always wanted to save horses. And this was her chance. She just had to get like the barn fixed up a little bit and get the paddock ready. In the meantime, they had a cat that they had rescued that lived in the house, and they kept its food dish on the like 4th step going down into the basement. They kept it right there where the light would shine on it when they opened it. And every day that they had this cat, they would feed the cat. And when they would open the door back up to check on it, the food dish would be moved exactly 2 steps up from where it was supposed to be.
Weird.
And they would put it back down, close the door, walk away, come back later, open it up, and it was 2 steps up again. And this happened every day. And the cat actually passed not that long after. And when the cat passed, they decided just to test it one more time. So they filled up the food dish like usual and left it on the normal step. And it never happened again. The dish never moved. Right? Cat was always very weird around the basement area. So I don't know why they kept feeding the cat there. But the cat was leery of something
that's
happening.
Not very nice.
Right? So next they rescued a Rottweiler, a full-grown Rottweiler who apparently was very, very friendly. And they started having problems with the Rottweiler. It would chase something up and down the rooms. And it started getting frantic about it. It would do it daily. It would just suddenly hop up as if somebody had like run through the room, and it would chase after it. And it got to the point that whatever this was that it was chasing would start heading towards walls. To like trick the dog into slamming into the wall, and it started doing that. And at one point, it actually put its whole face through a wall.
Oh my gosh!
Mm-hmm.
Holy cow.
And at that point, he got very ripped up. They had to take it to the vet, and they realized they couldn't have him in the house anymore. So they found someone to adopt the dog and got the dog out of the house. And after that, the dog never ever did it again. Right? Other things are happening with other animals that they have outside. They're acting odd. She finally gets the barn ready, and she starts bringing in horses and almost fills it right away. It had several stalls inside of it, and she had it full. And she started noticing every morning when she would go to let them out, because they were stalled at night, none of the horses were in their correct stalls.
Weird.
Which was very odd, because all the stalls had triple locks. So it had the latch lock that barred over, and then she had a chain that came down that was locked, and then it had a bottom switch at the bottom that would lock it from there too. And somehow the horses would never be in their right stalls. They'd be all switched around. And oftentimes they would just be covered in sweat, like they had been running all night long.
Oh my gosh.
Crazy. And it started concerning her because she thought, I must have somebody breaking in.
Yeah.
and unlocking them all, switching them around, and then relocking them. So she actually called the local police, and the police were concerned, why would somebody be doing this? And they actually sent patrolmen out to sit on the property and watch. And while the patrolmen were there, it happened. Of course, they couldn't see it because they were outside of the barn, but they would go in with her and check in the evenings and help her put them away, and then sit there for the evenings. And in the morning, when she would come back out, they would go in with her and find the horses.
Been done.
Yeah. And apparently this barn only had a few windows that could be seen, so they know no one had gone in and out of the windows.
Mhm.
So she went in actually one night and realized that she needed to get more hay. There was a hay loft above, and she walks up there, and the minute she hit that top step, the horses went crazy down below. They were just kicking up a storm. And she peeked back down below to see if maybe somebody had walked in, and she didn't see anything. So she was just like, I'm going to hurry up and get this hay bale, excuse me, from up here. And she said when she walked up, there was a very shadowy section, a shadowy corner to the side of her. And she watched something break away from that shadow, like another shadow break away from it.
Ew.
And this is where it gets interesting. The way that she explains it very much reminds me of like Jersey Devil / Mothman. So she describes it as being very large, but it seems very hunched over, like it has large arms or wings. But she couldn't make out any kind of description to it, except for that it had red glowing eyes.
That does sound a little Mothman-y.
Mothman-y, Jersey Devil. Now, this is Upper Connecticut. It's nowhere near Mothman territory. It is kind of close to New Jersey territory.
Yeah.
I think it's just New York that's in between Connecticut and, if I'm remembering my geography correctly, maybe that area. I don't know. Anyway, she ended up, they brought in paranormal investigators, and they did the full gambit. They got all sorts of EVPs of this weird whispering that would happen when the horses acted up. Sounded like a lot of voices whispering at the same time. And they attempted to do an EVP session in a circle up in the hayloft. And when they asked a particular question, a huge rock that they don't know where it came from, it didn't match the rocks from that area, but this huge rock was thrown right by them, and it hit so hard that it ricocheted off of 3 sections of the barn, including the ceiling.
Wow.
Yeah, and like left nicks in the wood. That's how hard it was thrown. Yeah. Yeah. So
that's freaky.
It is. So they ended up doing a lot of research on this house, and they ended up finding out that originally on the property, it used to be a dairy farm. And it just so happens that a barn used to sit where this new barn was. And that barn had burnt down in 1923. And all the cows from the dairy had been inside and all perished in the fire.
Gosh, that's awful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which actually explained when they found that out, the fire department was quite leery of that property, because even before this woman had moved in, they were called out there about once a year for smoke being seen in the barn and a smell of smoke.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so all made sense. It's a really interesting story. There's way more to it than that, of course, we don't have time to tell the entire story here. But if you're interested, just look up like haunted Connecticut barn horses, or you can go and find, what's the name of the show again? Terror at Mapledale Farm, on The Haunted. It's an old Discovery or Destination America, I think. An Animal Planet.
I'll put that in the chat too.
Yep. I have a few more stories. Do you have any more stories? Do you want to skip back over to you, Pam?
Why don't you go ahead and tell the next one, and then because mine are short.
Okay. So this next one this one's a short one, but I just thought this one was really Interesting. And whether it was detecting a ghost or not, I'm unsure, but I'll let you all be the judge. So I called this one the stray dog. This one was submitted by Andy W13 on BuzzFeed. I scrounged a few other from some other sites. This one says, I lived in a famously haunted house in San Pedro, California. A lot happened there, but the scariest was when we took in a stray dog. He never made a sound until one day he stopped at the bottom of the basement stairs and began barking at the ceiling. When we removed the ceiling tile, we found a pile of news clippings from before the 1950s. All were about murders, suicides, and accidents where all the people had died.
Ew. It's freaky.
Yeah, so what was it sensing? Was there like a ghost there like pointing it out? Or
Somebody was, yeah.
was there some weird aura around the clippings that it sensed, or I don't know.
So did somebody like, was it the murderer that saved the clippings, you know, or
Yeah. I don't
yeah,
know.
that's freaky.
Do
It,
do do do.
I mean, alerted it to their attention for some reason.
Yeah.
Wow, that's wild. Okay, I have another really sweet one. It's short and
Okay.
sweet too. So this lady, she had a story about her late dog named Twinkle, and she felt that Twinkle could see spirits. And she said that I'm certain that after my mother died, she would visit, and Twinkle was always thrilled to see her. Twinkle would prick her ears up and make this high pitched whistly sound to communicate what she saw. And Tweaks would behave just like she was schmoozing and talking to her favorite person while I could feel my mom's energy. And Twinkle is now with my mom, I'm sure, since
Aw,
Twinkle has now passed. I thought that was really sweet.
it is.
I like those. And I like the fact that, you know, when you get these stories about animals, um it's another confirmation that we go on, you know, we're
Mhm.
not just gone once we're gone. Um let's see. I have this little thing on what scientists say about dogs and ghosts too.
Okay.
So despite what dog owners uh, report, the scientists, you know, like we've just been reading, are expert scientists. And this is actually, if I remember correctly, it's in the show notes. I think it's from Reader's Digest of all places. Their expert scientists remain skeptical. After all, there aren't any scientific studies that prove the existence of the paranormal, such as spirits, demons, or ghosts. And there certainly aren't any studies that proves that dogs can or cannot see demons, spirits, or ghosts. So, excuse me, what Alexandra Horowitz, she's a PhD, senior research fellow and adjunct associate professor at Barnard College. She says what she suspects is happening here, that people are looking at dog behavior and wanting an explanation and being reluctant to see the more obvious ones, which I think that's a really sad way to look at the world around you personally. Um, so they had, uh, you know, they've talked to mediums who absolutely say that's not the truth. This is what we feel. This is what we sense. And so uh, I kind of tend to agree with them. And science or not, there is a 2024 poll, so it's very new. 64% of those surveyed believe in ghosts, with 20% claiming to have personally experienced them. So, in other words, and this is a poll from America too, for the majority of Americans, the question, can dogs see ghosts, isn't about whether ghosts exist, but but rather whether dogs are capable of seeing them. So at this point, they talked to Charles Payton, who is a psychic medium and he's an animal communicator. Excuse me. And according to him, all dogs can see ghosts. You know, we had the other medium saying, well, they can't all sense them. But according to Payton, they can all see them, you know, but not all humans obviously can see the same spirits. So dogs don't go out of their way to pick up on ghosts, and they learn to ignore those that are around them, just, you know, like they would ignore if they walked by a mirror and saw their own reflection, they would ignore that as well. But that spirits are always there, and if they aren't affecting the dog, then the dog's not paying attention to them, even though they can clearly see them. So who knows? He did recall one case where his client had these two dogs, and one of them refused to go anywhere near the garage. The dog communicated to me, this is Peyton speaking, that there was this big, scary male spirit in there. And when I went in, the dog was right. The spirit then communicated that he was connected to the tools that were in the garage. So when I spoke to the clients, they had absolutely no idea who I could be talking about until the husband was like, wait a minute. There's a guy I used to work with. He was a mechanic, and he had given me some of his tools. He has since passed, and he matched the description of what the dog was describing to the medium. So I thought that was fun.
Yeah.
Hang on. Enzo said there was an episode of the haunted TV program. Terror at Mapledale Farm was the first episode, and the entire show is available for free on Tubi. There you go.
Mhm.
Thank you, Enzo.
Yep. It's also available on YouTube as like a not on the actual program, but someone else's stolen version of it, which I watched. I am not ashamed to say.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So something that we need to look at too is, can they sense just spirits? I don't think they can. I think they can also sense the good energy and bad energy. And we talked about, them seeing maybe vortices in the rooms or whatever. And that kind of, when we look at overall what our whole topic is tonight, that makes sense as well. Now, so from a scientific point of view, dogs can smell when people are nervous, and they can detect even when they're lying by, they can smell the sweat coming off a person. So in that sense, from a paranormal view, assuming that they can sense the energy, then yeah, they should be able to absolutely pick up on good vibes versus bad vibes. When we ask the question if they can sense good or bad energy. But, again, and we talked about this earlier, they can't answer questions, yes or no questions for us. Is this what you see? Is this what you don't see? So any answer that we're going to get is going to be kind of subjective on it. And when you look at cats, they have evolved senses, and they can sense things that humans just can't. They're like dogs. They can see much better in dim light, so they can spot prey that our eyes would miss. And cats, their hearing isn't quite as good as dogs, but they can hear 6 to 8 times better than humans, which is still way better, than what we can. And they can use their whiskers to detect like temperature and air current changes and things like that. And some cats have been able to, known to be able to sense illness or danger before they're humans are even aware of it. And they can't see colors as richly as humans, but they do have sharper vision. And because of that, they can detect changes in light, such as subtle flickering of fluorescent lights, which, that may be occasionally the reason why Luna at the library looks up, because we do have fluorescent lights throughout the whole thing. And that's something that we need to consider. And they can more accurately judge distance too. So while your house might be quiet to you, Kitty may hear faint noises of devices, and they may be capturing frequencies that are, both above and below the hearing range that humans have. So, yeah.
Yep. Which we talked a lot about on the Fringe last week. So
We did, yeah. We
yeah.
finished up cymatics and harmonics and talked all about frequencies and things like that. So
Yeah, super interesting. Yeah, interesting. So I have a little quick story about a cat. I don't think it's actually, maybe it might be haunted related. I'm unsure, but I'm going to read it and just let people think, consider it for what it is.
Yeah.
So this one was really short. It says, my childhood cat went into the utility room and just sat staring at his glass food dish, which then proceeded to violently explode into smithereens, covering the whole room. The cat was unharmed. That was the story.
That's
so
weird.
This cat just wandered in, sat a fair distance away from its glass food dish and just stared at it, and then it suddenly exploded. So was the glass getting ready to explode and it set down
And
because it
why?
knew it, or it caused the glass dish to
Was it
explode?
laser lighting the
Laser kitty? I don't know.
kind of thing? That is weird.
It is insane. Like, I don't even know what to think of that one, but I decided to add it in because, we're all about the weird.
That is strange.
Yeah. So the last story I was going to do is a very well-known one. If you haven't heard of this, I would be surprised. So I'm going to talk about the Overton Bridge. Overton Bridge is the famous dog suicide bridge, right? This one is in Scotland, for anybody who doesn't know. I'm going to give you a little bit of history on it so you know what it is we're talking about. So this bridge you're looking at on the screen, since the 1950s, numerous reports of dogs jumping off of or falling off of this bridge has been reported, with the incidents often resulting in serious injury or death upon landing on the rocks that are 50 feet below it. Now, this happens all the time and still happens up to this day. In fact, they were trying to do a count, and they can only do counts from the 70s because that's when they started kind of counting how often this happened. From 1970-ish, around in there, they've counted over 600 dogs going over the side of this bridge. Now, the interesting thing is, so of those 600, thankfully only 50 have died. But many of those 600 were horribly hurt. They said almost all of them come out of it like completely shaken, like they're never the same dog after this has happened to them. So this bridge was actually built. It wasn't an actual like public bridge when it was originally built. It was a bridge that spanned a large creek, or a small river, I guess you could say, to get into someone's property. They like rerouted their drive, and they had money. It was a big place, and they had this bridge put in so they could have a more direct route into town. And now it's a public road, although that same home is still on the other side of this bridge. And that house is haunted too, by the way. So what is happening is that people are walking along this bridge with their dogs because it's a nice little rural area to take. It's a very park-like atmosphere to take your dog to. And these dogs will all of a sudden perk up and then turn. They all say that they kind of turn. They're not their own dogs anymore. They're acting very strangely. Their ears will lay down, or their ears will perk up. They'll all of a sudden act frantic, like they don't know which direction to go, or they'll spin circles, and then they all shoot off in this one particular direction, and they literally just run over the side of the bridge. They'll fling themselves over. Yeah. So, a ghostly white lady has been seen in the area who's also attached to the home. They don't know what her backstory is. Some people think that it's her that's kind of like charming them over. There is a lot of people that say that there's a lot of mink, the animal mink, in the area, and mink put off a strong smell, and they think that the dogs are attacking it. But there's actually a lot of hunters in this area that claim there's actually no mink in this area whatsoever. So that was kind of shot down too. I went and took a look at some of the incidences to see if there was any kind of, besides the dogs kind of acting the same and shooting off the same direction, if there was anything else that was related. I couldn't really find anything except for them all acting in this weird, strange behavior. I did find out that the time of day that it happens and the time of year that it happens is all completely random. Like there's not a particular, because I thought, well, maybe if it was animals, maybe more towards the summer months is when this would happen, but it happens in the winter too. And there's also not a time of day that they're more prone to it at all. It's very strange. Like I said, it's still happening to this day. Now, that's not the only thing that's happened here. In 1994, a gentleman by the name of Kevin Moy threw his 2-week-old son to his death from this bridge.
Oh my God.
He believed that his son was the reincarnation of the devil and was trying to get rid of it. He also attempted to jump in afterwards. He actually jumped in 3 times. And on the 3rd time, he was hurt bad enough that they had to rescue him. And they promptly put him in a psychiatric hospital, of course. But yeah, this one bridge. They call it the dog suicide bridge.
I definitely wouldn't take a dog there.
No, and not a lot of people do anymore because it has such a bad, presence around it.
They started keeping track somewhere in the 70s. I wonder how many times it happened prior for them to realize a pattern in order to start keeping track.
I don't know. The bridge itself, I believe, was put in the late 1800s. And I couldn't find any information on if the dogs jumping off went that far back. But of course, this is like rural Scotland, so I don't know how much reporting was done. So, yeah.
And what would be so enticing for all these dogs, different dogs? And I'm sure, you probably had different levels of obedience training and things like that for them to all be so enticed that they couldn't resist.
Yeah. I also looked into, because I thought, well, if maybe the majority of them are like hunting, sniffing dogs. And if they are, maybe they are catching a whiff of something.
Yeah.
Because hunting dogs are trained like that. So if you watch a hunting dog, if they catch the whiff of whatever it is they're trained to go after, they will kind of have this like weird reaction, like they go crazy and they'll bay or they'll bark.
Yeah.
And until you give them the cue to go, they'll just act nutty and then just shoot off when you give them the go ahead. So I thought, well, maybe these are like smelling, maybe they are smelling something. And I could imagine, like, if you look at this picture, it is a huge drop off. But if you're looking at it from a dog's point of view, all they're seeing is the greenery around them.
So maybe they're misjudging.
Maybe they're misjudging. Maybe they think that it's just straight across, but it's not. But it didn't actually make any sense because more than just hunting dogs have done this. Little small,
especially different times of the year when the greenery might not be as thick. And...
Yeah. But that's the weirdness that is this bridge.
That is crazy. Oh my goodness. Huh.
Yep. But that's all I have.
I have just a couple more anecdotals.
Okay.
Then we can play the notebook game if you want to.
Ooh,
start a little earlier than normal. And these are, when I say they're short, they are very short, and they're in response to someone else's story. But they just threw these in there. This one lady said, my orange tabby stayed by my son's bedside. And the moment my son passed, my cat sat and stared at the ceiling in his bedroom. It's like he was watching him go. And this one, this person, I included this because it hits really close to home, and we might talk about that. We've talked about it before, but we'll talk about it again. I saw my cat in my bedroom clear as day. He had passed away a year prior. I 100% saw him in the room. For those who have listened to us before, you may have heard us tell the story about my kitty cat that was 16 years old, very small, never been outside, very much a lap cat, carried her around on my neck all the time, completely disappearing from my house. And we, to this day, don't know how she got out, don't know where she ended up. And it kind of played in with some other things that were happening at the time. We had just done an investigation of a place that we were pretty sure had fae activity. And it was, and I can't remember if it was before or after we found the dirty footprint, bare footprint, just one in my hallway. And I think it was before, wasn't it? I'll have to go back and look. And anyway, my cat disappears. And we never found any trace of her. And we put out flyers, and all of us, and I know Jess for sure was canvassing, driving around looking for her. And it snowed just a few days after that. So, but I've heard her in the house before. I've heard her meow. Sounds like she's not quite here, but like she's a room over or something. And recently, about a month or two ago, we were sitting at my dining room table, which is off this way behind me, and Jess was pretty close to where I'm at now. Clearly heard her meow right behind her. And I didn't hear her at the time, and I was sitting really close to Jess. And it was about the same time that I came out of my bathroom and saw her tail go down the hallway. And so at the time, Stewie's here now. My son's cat's here now, but he wasn't here then. So definitely wasn't Stewie that I saw. And plus Stewie's like 10 times bigger than Stewie was.
Yes.
But yeah. So she still lets us know she's around, and it sucks because we never did figure out what happened to her.
I think we know what happened to her.
Yeah,
we both know how the Fae works, so I think they took her as penance.
Skated.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
You're probably right. Makes me sick. And then the other one that I just have one more. And it says, one night my cat barged into my room meowing frantically like he never had before. And 10 minutes later, I got the call that my mother had died 10 minutes prior. So, yeah.
Yeah.
It is, Enzo. You would have loved her.
It's a sad story. Awesome. Yeah, she was. Interestingly enough, so just in time for tonight, Raven had an experience just earlier today. My daughter. Really? Yeah, so Bronwyn, the kitty cat you just saw, climbed up all over me and left fur as far as the eye can see. She was a rescue cat, and wherever she was at before, apparently she drank out of sinks a lot, and is still prone to do that and will whine and fuss until you let her get a drink out of the faucet. And my daughter was in her bathroom folding up towels, and the cat was wanting in the sink very badly, so she turned it on low for her and was letting her have a drink. And she turned around to fold up another towel, and when she did, she heard the cat yowl from her bedroom. And it surprised her because she had just turned the faucet on for the cat, and she turned and the cat was still face down in the sink drinking away. So where did the second cat meow come from?
That's weird.
Yeah, and where the cat sound came from, it couldn't have been like a cat in the exterior of a home, like hearing it from the outside. It's not possible from where she was at. So interesting.
It's weird.
Yeah, she was like, "We have a ghost cat," and I was like, "Well, as long as we don't have to feed it, I'm good."
That's funny.
All right, so I want to put a shout out to Stacy Huey. She was the one who requested this show on ghost animals and whether they can sense ghosts or not. This was her idea. So, everybody at home, if you have a topic you would like to really hear a little bit of a deep dive on, let us know. We will totally add it to our lineup.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So are we going to play some notebook game?
Let's play some notebook game. So everybody knows the drill.
Woo, notebook time.
Jess has 5 notebooks.
Yeah.
So if you would like to play, just post a number in the chat give us a number of notebook 1 through 5, and then a page number 1 through 65. And
I will read whatever the heck is on that page. You're going to hear weird notes and stories we've worked on, or just random interesting things I've run onto because I write everything down like a big old nerd. Okay, so Chris wants book 4, page 13. 1, 2, 3, 4. 13. Okay, and 12, 13. Okay. All right. Okay. What is this on? Let me hold on. I gotta check back at the. Oh, Beaver Sands Portal in Oklahoma.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so the Beaver Sands Portal is in the panhandle of Oklahoma and kind of that no man's land area. This is a real place. They also call it the Shaman's Portal. And I'm just going to read from my notes here. So it says, in the Beaver Sand Hills in the panhandle of Oklahoma, it's comprised of sand dunes. Disappearances supposedly have been happening there since Coronado. Reportedly, the Native Americans knew of a mysterious force there and warned Coronado to not venture there. He did not listen. They made camp and sent 3 men out to hunt. They did not return. The only thing witnessed that night was a flash of green light. Fray Juan de Padilla, who was traveling with Coronado and his men, wrote about it in his journal. He wrote that the devil took the men in a green lightning bolt. Many more happened throughout the years. Nancy Wright, a young woman, 1894, walked across the dunes but never came back. Witnesses reported a green light. Bill Gruendike, 1977, was reported missing. His car and campsite were found abandoned. There were no clues to his disappearance, but nearby residents had reported green flashes days before his campsite was found. A Kansas boy in 1997 disappeared while camping with friends there. A Texas woman camping nearby witnessed green flashes that same night. And if I recall, didn't we do that one on our Believe It or Not with the guys?
We
on
did
the
it on
Fringe?
something because I recall that story.
Yeah, because I went back and did more research on it, and I believe I tracked down that boy from Kansas. There was a boy from Kansas missing in 1977, and he had gone on a camping trip with friends who were Boy Scouts down in the Beaver Sands area and had been reported missing, and he'd never ever been found. So that one we know for sure is true because I found the paper trail on it. All right. That was a good one, Chris.
That
Now what?
was. Okay, Enzo has book 2, page 23.
Okay, 223.
Ooh, I love that. He's got the notebook that he has up. It's a little composition book. That's awesome.
Okay. 23. What is this on? What am I looking at here? Oh, this is about Mr. Stain. You don't know what I'm talking
I
about?
don't know that one.
As in Berenstain.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense.
Okay, so we are deep in Mandela right now. So Fiona Broome, who was kind of the originator of the name Mandela Effect, she was the one that kind of named it and started the first book on the thing. She was the one that had the whole circumstance go down where she thought Nelson Mandela was dead, and someone else said, well, he hasn't passed at all. And she kind of started this and started finding other people that had the same story. Anywho, she had a very popular chat board, I guess you could say, like a chat board. Is that what they used to be called?
Yeah.
Yeah. like a chat room board type of situation where she had people hop on there and leave messages and notes about things that would happen to them that, you know,
It's
some
like
oddity in their life.
kind of thing.
Yeah, where they were having their own Mandela experiences. You could like leave your Mandela experience there, and she was like collecting them. And you can see a lot of them if you get some of her books. She's got a series of books, and they're just really interesting. Grab them if you can. But on this chat board one day, this gentleman popped on there, and he called himself Mr. Stain. And when we say Stain, they're pretty sure he's referencing the Berenstain Bears,
Really
which is
think he's right.
one of the big Mandelas. Some people remember it being Berenstain, and some people remember it being Berenstein. The spelling slightly different with an E or an A. And I'm just going to read to you what's here. So he entered one of Broom's chats, 23rd of July, 5:04 a.m. And this is what he wrote. And I'm going to read it exactly how he wrote it. If I remember correctly, it's a little weird. So it says, "This has nothing to do with financial gain. The A marker for every time processor in the event of an emergency to understand what reality they are in. There are so many more markers that are hidden from the public, yet each letter stands for age, date, time, and sequence. This information is true and has been provided for your understanding by a fellow time processor. Please watch out for 2029. Be prepared and watch out for the awakening. This does not make sense now, but will soon. And please stop using your cell phones. They are the key ingredient of your society's collapse." So the theories were that this gentleman was, so we're talking interdimensionally, as if there's many parallel universes, and these time processors are able to move in and out of these different lines of reality, and the markers are the weird, what we consider Mandelas, but they're the markers they leave behind so they know which line they're in. So it's like a road sign for them. Oh, you're in this line because they say it this way here. Right? Yeah, that's what I just go on to explain that here. And I also gave myself a little note, reminds me of the messages from Terry Wrist and Hellier.
Yeah, especially the way that it's spelled out like that. It's really strange.
Yeah.
And just tell me more about time processors. I agree about cell phones.
Time processor is just literally what he was calling himself. Makes note of that whole interdimensional or parallel dimension theory. We will probably do a show on that one day because we all have huge thoughts on this Mandela situation and all this other stuff. It's really, really interesting.
It is.
All right. Do we have another one? Do we have?
We do.
Okay.
Enzo says, I need to rewatch Hellier. I do too. It's Oh, and we found out today a couple of really exciting things. If you're fans of the Haunted Objects podcast, it's coming back July 8th. And that's what made me think of this was the Newkirks are also the ones that did Hellier. They did the unbinding as well, and it will be out on Blu-ray coming soon. They didn't have an exact time, but it will be soon. So yay.
Yay.
Ginger, notebook 5, page 47.
Okay. I'm looking at it. Oh. Hold on. I've got stuff.
I never got
flying out.
Sucked in so far that I actually sat down and tried to go through and run things through the what's it called on Hellier, where they take it's the cryptic thing that they run stuff through to find the hidden messages. I haven't got that deep. People are still doing it though with different things.
47. Okay. Oh, luckily, this is one of the ones I already have numbered. All right. So, the ghost blimp. So, I did this one for one of the guys' shows. We were doing, I think it was like missing military or something like that. It's been a while. So I'm just going to read it. The ghost blimp, it was called the Navy blimp L8, L-8. The blimps didn't have like spectacular call systems like ships and stuff did. So this took place August 16th, 1942. The L8 took off from the Naval Air Station in Treasure Island, San Francisco, on a routine patrol mission. The crew consisted of Lieutenant Ernest Cody and Ensign Charles Adams, both experienced blimp pilots. Their mission was to patrol the California coast for signs of enemy submarines. Along its patrol route, the blimp was spotted by numerous witnesses on the ground who reported it flying too low. This was unusual as blimps typically flew at higher altitudes during patrols. As the L8 continued its erratic flight, it eventually made its way out over the Pacific Ocean. By this point, it was clear there was something amiss. The blimp was flying without any signs of communication or activity from the crew. Concerned witnesses on the ground reported not seeing a crew on board to the authorities, and a massive search and rescue operation was launched. 5 hours later, the L8 crashed on a suburban street in nearby Daly City, California, scraping rooftops and dislodging power lines along the way. Local fire crews rushed to the site to put out the flames and rescue the crew, but there was no crew there to rescue. A new crew on the K ship. So I'm not sure if that was another blimp or what, but they called it the K ship. Yeah, managed to approach the L8 and observe that it was still under power with its engines still running. The gondola appeared to be undamaged, and there was no signs of struggle or distress inside. However, the two crew members, Cody and Adams, were nowhere to be found. Aboard the L8, investigators found the parachutes of the missing crew members, disproving the theory that they had parachuted out. The investigation found no distress calls or signals from the blimp, and all equipment appeared to be functional. The engines were running normally when it was found. The crew members were never found. And I put myself a little side note here. It says one interesting note is that several ground witnesses claim to have seen 3 men, not 2, in the gondola initially before it headed out to sea. Who was the third man?
Weird.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, so basically, I don't know if it like came across that way because these are my notes to myself. So, it left the station and it flew over land for a little bit before it went out to sea. It went out to sea a little ways and then it disappeared for a little while and then it popped back up, coming back into land again. And that's when it was like skimming over buildings and flying super low, even though everything on it was running correctly. So. Yeah, they never found those 2 guys, and they still don't know who the supposed third guy was, if there was one in there. But they said that they were flying low enough when they went out to sea that people could see this third person in there. So I don't know.
Huh. That is odd.
It is.
An interesting one.
Yep. All right. Do we have any others?
Does anyone else want to do one? We have time for another one.
Yep. You all can pick out a second one. I don't care.
Yeah.
You could do 2.
It's
I don't
allowed.
mind sharing my crazy ass notes with y'all.
And don't worry about it running out. That's not going to happen anytime soon.
No, I could totally like if we were. I mean, I switch out my notebooks. Like these aren't the same 5 that were here
No.
last week.
No, they're always.
I try to shuffle them a little bit.
While we're waiting, I know we talked a little bit about the haunted ramen project.
Yes. Talk about the haunted ramen.
I brought my haunted ramen. She is sufficiently haunted now. She's activated. Her name is Agnes McLeod. So we shall see how it goes. I will keep you guys updated. She'll be joining us for our podcasts. Okay.
She
Gender.
wants
Book 3, page 17.
1, 2, 3, 17. Sorry, I haven't numbered this one yet. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. This is about the mass bird deaths in Beebe, Arkansas in 2011.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, okay. December 31st, 2011, thousands of red-winged blackbirds all died mid-flight and rained down on the small community of Beebe, Arkansas. Samples of the birds showed death by blunt force trauma, and that the trauma happened mid-flight as the birds were dead long before they hit the ground. The weather radar that night picked up an echo that meteorologists could not explain. A non-weather echo appeared at 1,500 feet, well over the birds. It was shaped like a mushroom with no movement. Witnesses said they watched the birds fly into an invisible wall. Beebe, Arkansas, 2011, mass fish death, Arkansas River. 12 miles west of Beebe. So this happened on the same day. Estimated 80,000 to 10,000 fish died at the same time. A band of dead fish, 4 foot wide and 12 miles long, ran along the banks within 2 hours' time. Toxicology reports and trauma reports were negative. They couldn't figure out what killed the fish. Yeah, all happened within the same day. So, UFO? Perhaps.
Weird. Yeah, something.
Invisible UFO that all the birds hit.
Yeah.
And then maybe, I don't know, some kind of a fallout or toxin from the UFO or whatever that is killed the fish.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Mysterious for sure. Jennifer.
All right, what do we got?
Book 2, page 28.
Okay. 1, 2.
Yeah, that is weird. It's, especially for toxicology and everything to come out negative.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me think, when we did the UFO one, Kansas UFO one. Wah wah. Enzo. It's the bird. Where something came off of the ship and it burned into the ground basically, and when they touched it, it numbed their hands. Wonder if it was something basically maybe toxic that couldn't be detected because we didn't know what it was. We didn't have any way to detect what it was. It's weird.
So this page is the weird company logo changes from 2012.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. I think we've read this one before, but I don't think on this show. I think it was on The Fringe. But I'm going to do it anyway because it's what Jennifer picked. So I'm going to read it. Yeah. So 2012 is a big year for us. It's a big year of mysteries and changes and strange happenings. So when they kicked on the Hadron Collider and they found the particle, end of days for the Mayan calendar, just all sorts of upheaval. And 2012 rears its ugly head every time we investigate something new. It's always in there somehow. 2012 pops up. It's actually the year that our investigative team started too. So crazy stuff. We've done a lot of shows on it. And in the process of doing these shows, solely on 2012, I found a lot of strange coincidences and things that can't really be described. And one of the things that I did was that I found in 2012 a very large amount of companies suddenly changed their logos for no apparent reason. they all just decided their logos needed to completely change. And it all happened this summer, right after or right around the time that the Hadron Collider kicked on. So
Which is,
I'm just going to
it's a
read the
coincidence.
list.
It's a really odd one.
Yeah. So I'm just going to list the ones, and these are just the big ones. They're not all the little, like, smaller name ones you wouldn't recognize. So we've got Domino's Pizza, JCPenney, Twitter, DC Comics, Microsoft, Wendy's, Universal, Arby's, Quaker, Weight Watchers, USA Today, Stanford University, the University of California, the American Red Cross, Lifetime, Jaguar, eBay, Avis, Comcast, and Miller Genuine Draft. And that's not all of them. That's just the ones that I have, the bulk ones that I could find when we were doing this particular show, whichever one I was researching for.
That is weird.
Yeah. So one of the weird, strange things that happened in 2012. Somewhere in here, I have an entire, like, 5 pages just on the change that happened to cell phones super fast in just that 1 year. Like, we jumped technologies that year. We jumped over an entire section of technology and upgraded, like, insanely that year. So
It's weird.
weird times. Yeah.
Mhm. Fun.
Yeah. All right. So I think, we got it all?
Yeah, we got them all.
Yeah. And we're kind of like dead on time here, which is cool.
Not bad.
All right.
Oh.
So grab my little end notes here. Again, thank you to Stacey Huey for giving us the idea for this show. And if y'all want to send in your ideas, please do.
Absolutely.
We love the ideas. Yep. So do you have anything more to add before we end it out?
I do not. This was a fun one. I like this one.
Yeah, it was. All right. Okay. So thanks to everyone for hanging out with us here on the 37th. Thanks for hanging out in the chats and chatting with us. I'm going to remind you again, if you're visiting here because you're not a usual person on YouTube because you had to get sent over here, Facebook in its infinite wisdom has changed the rules on us again, and we are literally like just a few follows away from being able to show our live videos on there again. If you have not liked or have not followed us on our Bordertown Strange page on Facebook, please go over there really quick and just give us a follow. If we can just tip our numbers up over 100, we can start showing our live videos over there again. It's ridiculous, I know, but please just send a friend over there to do it too. Let's just get our numbers up over 100 so we can do this again.
We're up to 93.
Over to 93, so we need 7 more, please. Also, just if you're on YouTube right now, remember to give us a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell so you know when we go live again. It'll give you a little heads up so you can come in and watch the show. You can find a listing of our show notes and resources and references on our website, www.bordertownparanormal.com. It'll be underneath the Bordertown Strange button you'll find at the very top of the page. So smack that. You can find all of that there. Catch a new show every other Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Central on YouTube and hopefully on Facebook soon if y'all can get over there and do that pretty quick. And it's available wherever you listen to your podcasts. The next one will be July 3rd, I believe. Wednesday night, July 3rd. Yep.
Let me double check, but I think so.
Yeah. And we'll be releasing soon what that topic will be. I don't think we've quite decided yet. We're just rolling here.
Yeah, no,
we're
we're open for suggestions for the next
yes.
show.
Although we have a list about a mile long of shows that we can do, so no worries. No, we've got tons we can do. So also remember, send in your show ideas, of course, and your personal stories. We'll read them live on the show, or maybe even have you on if you'd like to come. We'd love to have guests. So keep it weird, keep it strange, and remember, it's all connected. Good night.
Good night, everybody.